But one thing I didn't mention that's very important is safety. Is a lot of municipalities today are requiring key change out on a tenant change out. A lot of small landlords are used to just passing the keys from one tenant to the next. Many municipalities actually put in laws that people aren't really aware of that require key change out. What I do with multiple properties is I've got sets of locks that are all compatible, but they're all the same brand, but they're not the same. And we flag them so we know we can go in and change that front door lock out, put a different front door lock that I already own, and then, you know, a couple of years down the road, we may circle another door lock in there. But it is a pretty good gap in coverage. So there's several things that you can do like that. But if peepholes are required, you want to make sure that they're in the doors.
I was going to ask you about that. What about the back door?
I would make sure you follow code. I don't usually worry about back doors, but I would follow code. A lot of back doors in our suburban houses have glass in them already, but the issues having the...
There's some kind of code where the door that goes into the garage, in other words, it says that both front door and back door need to have access to see outside. So some of these rental companies, no offense, it's just that some rental companies are putting peepholes in the back door that goes out to the garage. And that doesn't make sense to me.
Doesn't seem like it would provide much help. One of my concerns beyond the peepholes, which I don't find are particularly helpful, by the way, is fire control. Obviously, we're recovering from a major fire. Nobody was there when the fire happened, so we didn't have any risk of loss of life. But we have burglar alarm system. Burglar alarm system did not detect fire until the building's almost collapsing. So in our rebuild, we have remote fire monitoring in there, and we have. But for code, a lot of code is electric fire alarms, depending on the age of the property. So I can tell you that we're, especially given what I've been through, I've got fire extinguishers in my properties, and you know, I've gone to the next level. But the first step is to know what the municipality is, usually local rules that cover landlords. And so you want to make sure that you're complying with whatever your local rules are, whether that's peepholes. Usually burglar alarms are not required, but fire alarms are, smoke alarms. One of the things I'm doing on my rental properties is with the smoke alarms, we've gotten rid of the annual batteries. We're using the 10-year units. But we've had issues where I had a 10-year unit that failed in 2 years. In fairness to the manufacturer, they sent me a new unit. And it was easy. They sent it to me and they said, put the new one, the old one in the box because we'd like to see it. And
right.
You know, they gave us a return mailer and stuff. But there's a lot of
they had a 10-year. That's good.
That's what, and I'm switching all of my rental properties to the 10-year units because it's such a hassle to go into a occupied unit. And what I've run into time and time again, you walk into a rental unit, and Rodney just did it with his hand, is they just pop the door loose and leave the battery hanging out so that the darn thing will stop beeping at them. And I actually tell my tenants, if the smoke alarm needs a battery, to please put a battery in it, and we'll give them rent credit for it, just to try and encourage them not to do it. But boy, I've been doing this a long time. I would say I've seen at least 10 smoke alarms hanging open, and it's almost always the one in the kitchen, probably one of the most dangerous spots not to have a smoke alarm. And most of them require smoke alarms in the bedroom hallway. If you've got a split master, as we do in some of our nicer suburban houses, the master's here and the other bedrooms are here, then you need to make sure you've got smoke alarm in the kitchen, the master bedroom, and the corridor serving the small bedrooms.
I've put in a note in regarding to damaged smoke detectors that I will charge them a fine, for anything damaging. You know, if they don't replace the battery, or if I find that it's missing. I've seen them completely missing, and I'll charge them a fee.
Yeah, they pull them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but in the end,
and
if somebody leaves and you've got the deposit, and the bottom line is your capacity to collect becomes questionable, right?
Yeah, and on that, from a legal standpoint, I'm gonna wrap up with that because it's 1:30. on a legal, from a legal standpoint, is make sure if you take 5 cents out of the security deposit, that you've provided a letter to the tenant within 30 days. This is pretty universal across the United States, by the way. So there may be some local rules, but the general rule is, across most of the United States, is within 30 days, you need to give them their security deposit back, or you need to give them a letter detailing every deduction you've made. And yes, folks, I have had several former tenants go postal on me because they thought we were unfair, and I said, here's the receipt for the cleaning service, here's the replacement of the smoke alarm that was missing, we just painted this whole area, here's, we brought in a specialist to do odor control because your cat painted a room, and we provide the list, but we're real careful with that. On my tenants who don't have a deduction, I usually give the money back to them in 5 days. Because I want to have a good reputation as a landlord. So when we make a big issue, and we tell people up front, we say, our objective is to give you all of your security deposit back.
Both of our objectives.
Absolutely. They want it back, we'd
That's
like to
right.
give it to them and not have people mad at
But
us.
today, because we have the facility of photography,
Yeah.
but I was,
Real quick, could you expound on your 60-day notice? That one really piqued my interest.
It's
Could
just,
expand on it a little bit
you
more?
just, in the leases where it used to say you have to give 30 days notice, you just change it to 60. It's the simplest change in the world. And what you're doing is you're pushing everything early. Now, as the landlord, you need to be on top of things because you need to decide 60 days out. You go to the tenant and you say, hey, your rent's $1,000 a month right now, it's gonna be $1,050 starting on June 1. Are you planning to renew? I just want you to know what the new rent will be. The person says, well, if you're raising the rent, I'm gonna move. Then you send them an email and say, this confirms our discussion, we had this. I'm going to be immediately looking for a new tenant, and then you immediately post the property. We usually post the first week of the second month out, so that as soon as we know the tenant is not gonna renew, we post the property right away and aggressively try and get it rented by the end of the first month out rather than getting into the second month.
You're just increasing your time to.
And like I said, my
prepare for
vacancy factor is down here. Now, and you're applying for a mortgage, some of the mortgage companies are using a 25% vacancy number to be very conservative. And that's a killer, by the way, but I mean, I've been able to persuade some of the mortgage brokers I work with that do a lot of work on rental properties. They'll be more sophisticated. They'll actually look at your rent rolls and say, yeah, you've done a good job. We'll use 90% instead of 75%. So, being diligent and having good records is its own reward.
Absolutely.